Hello and welcome to this pre-introduction to this installment of Agnès Forever, in which I'll be talking about the short film Du Côté de la Côte, I think. So I wanted to address the fact that throughout this entire video that you're about to see, I pronounce this film as Du Côte de la Côte, and that is wrong. And I might still be wrong with the correct pronunciation of Du Côté de la Côte, but I'd heard someone say it in a video and I thought, oh god, I got it wrong. So just so you're aware, if you speak French, if you're French and you're about to watch this video, I'm aware of the fact that I pronounce it incorrectly throughout the entire video. Don't leave me any shitty comments about it. I'm at least trying, you know. So I wanted to address that right up on Front Street before we get into the video, so on to the main video. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to part 8 of Agnès Forever, in which I'll be talking about the final film for now from Program 2, Early Varda, and this is the 1958 documentary Du Côte de la Côte. Coasting Along the Coast, I believe, is the English translation of the title. Now, I will say the chronological layout of Agnès' filmography in the booklet for this box set shows that Du Côté de la Côte comes before Aux Saisons au Château, which isn't correct. So that's a mistake in the book. It should be the other way around. Aux Saisons au Château came before Du Côté de la Côte. So this was the second one. The second tourist board... my brain went then. My brain completely went. I'll leave that in for free. The second film commissioned by the Tourist Board of France. That Agnès made, and she says in the introduction to this film that after she made the first one, Aux Saisons au Château, the tourist board was like, we really liked that. We want you to do another one. We want you to focus on the French Riviera and kind of do your thing, basically. So she got given free rein to go and make another documentary, and so she spent 2 months in the French Riviera, and she was fascinated by the kind of decadence of it and the colors and the tourists and everything. And so she set about kind of, studying the area and the history and looking at it at that point in time in 1958 and making a record of it. So the French Riviera is the southeastern coast of France, on the Mediterranean. And I think I'm trying to think of some of the places that I think Nice is one of the places. There's a few of them I've forgotten already. And I can't pronounce some of them either, some of the locations, but a lot of the time you'll have like there's a dueling narration going on in the film. There's one from a male voice, and then the female voice will chime in to just kind of tell you what you're seeing is from. So, and it almost looks like whenever, as an English speaker, the male narrator will say, here's this and that, and then there'll be like a nice tree, and then the female narrator will say Nice, and it'll say nice at the bottom of the screen, and it's almost like the male narrator is showing you something cool, and the woman's going nice, That kept popping into my head every time, but Nice is obviously what she's saying. So this film, again, focuses on the French Riviera and really tourism and kind of tourists that come in. And there's lots of shots of like heavily crowded beaches, and Agnès is filming like all of the kind of sunbathers. It's almost like just people like laying on top of each other. They're so packed in, and just lots of fly on the wall stuff that is really intriguing. And again, like Aux Saisons au Château, looks stunning. Again, I think it's like Eastman color film, 35mm. I really feel like these two films, the two documentaries on the early Varda disc, they would really lose a lot of their power if they were in black and white. In Aux Saisons au Château, it was filmed in autumn. There's a very kind of golden, kind of brown feel to it, which just feels really nice and fitting to those chateaux, which are of another time, really. And when you think of autumn, you think of, reflection, I guess, and things that have kind of, gone on. I don't know. I just feel like autumn is a perfect season to be like reflective. Whereas the summer, which is when she shot Du Côte de la Côte, is a perfect time to embrace the present, going out on holidays and things like that, bright colors. And so it was perfectly fitted in the seasons that she made these two films, and the colors just really pop. And again, speaking about the yellow tint, I really didn't notice it that much in this film, and I just think the film looked incredible filmically and in terms of the colors as well. This was also lensed by Quinto Albuquerque, who she worked with on the previous film, and she said that he loved colors, which I mentioned before, and so this film, I think she says in the introduction, so he really went to town, or we really went to town on this one, in terms of the color. And there is these really bright, vivid, it's brilliant. But I love I'm losing words, but I love the way that this film is set out in terms of how it explores the French Riviera, and it goes to like class and touches on things here and there. It has that playful kind of light touch of Agnès in there, even though she's not doing the narration herself. And I actually think in the credits, someone else was credited as writing the kind of dialogue of the film, but there's just such a nice through line that kind of dips in and out of certain aspects of the beaches and the tourists. And even at the very beginning, she says we're not going to focus on the locals too much, even though there might be great characters, and there's like shots of these old people with like 1,000 stories etched onto the wrinkles of their faces, and then we just cut to like tourists and why are all these people coming in? And then she pivots to like the first people who came to visit the French Riviera, like from the like Roman times and kind of things like that. And like why were people first compelled to visit here? Why are they compelled to visit here now? And all that kind of stuff. It goes into like hotels and kind of the bellman, the doorman, and all that sort of stuff. And you see different hotels, the way that the angles are cut really nicely and pleasing to the eye. And then you see all these other kind of grand gardens and great views of the ocean and stuff. And she kind of touches a little bit on how it really is like a pricey, expensive area to kind of like visit and live in, and how it's kind of the high society angle a little bit again from Au César Nos Chateaux. So that was interesting because she kind of juxtaposes almost the packed beaches of just all these tourists crammed in, and then just the dead in terms of this beautiful kind of haunting cemetery up on a cliff overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. And how that's kind of like a really like lucrative place to be buried. Like it's seen as like a proper, like that's something to aspire to. And so that's I like how she played with that a little bit. And also how the French Riviera has this kind of obsession with Eden and kind of projecting itself as this kind of paradise. And in the introduction, she says that, and there's like a very knowing like squint on her eyes when she says, but it was a sham paradise, it was a fool's paradise basically. And so that's also interesting because she was commissioned by the tourist board to make this film, and she's promoting it in a way, but she's also kind of slighting it at the same time, I feel like. But she very deftly kind of conceals that a little bit, I think, where it's such a beautiful film to look at that I think that many people would be moved to go. I want to go, I want to go to those places actually. And even though I'm not a sun merchant, I'm really not a big fan of like hot climates. I would really love to visit some of those places because they looked phenomenal and just gorgeous, and the ocean views and everything. And there's lots of great shots of the sun and the sky and the sea, and the way the camera pans at times very quickly, and you'll be disoriented, and all the signs of like shops that are called Eden, Eden this, Eden that. And then she focuses on this island, which is a phenomenal sequence of the film. And I think the line in the narration is that there is an Eden, it's an island, and it's dawn. And there's an amazing shot where the camera is on this island and it's moving through the trees, through bushes, I should say, not trees. And obviously they have someone behind the camera moving the leaves out of the way, but it's so like naturally done, and the camera's moving in, and the kind of the bushes are slightly parting, and just beyond we see the outline of a tree and a little clearing, and then just like perfectly timed, this horse starts coming through and it's pulling an empty carriage. The timing of that shot and just the way it looks and is composed is awesome. It's one of my favorite shots in a movie almost. I loved it so much. And then there's just this shot of these two horses kind of frolicking on this little secluded beach. And I just loved it. I just loved looking at it. Just moments captured that are, I don't know, just really nice to look at. There's not really much more to say about it than that, really. And it is showing you like the way that beaches are untouched by humanity, and then what they're like when they're just swarming with humanity, in a sense. And so, I don't know, I almost get a kind of anti-tourist feel from this film. I don't think that's really the intention, but that's kind of the way I kind of I gleaned some of the intention, perhaps, or at least projecting my own view of it, perhaps, maybe my own judgments on seeing that, I don't know. And it is very much coming from like a 2020 perspective of just being like, oh my god, all those people packed together, thinking about the virus and everything. But of course, it was, times were different back then, and had been like that for a very long time. But regardless, it was something that I couldn't not think about up to a point when you just saw all these people packed in together and visiting certain places. And then the ending is a very somber kind of great encapsulation of that kind of end of summer feel, where you see all of the bright parasols, I think they're called. The kind of little sunshade umbrellas on the beach, and then suddenly the kind of bright sunlit beach is no longer bright, and it's a bit more muted, and there's grays, and there's no one there anymore, and then the umbrellas collapse, and then you just see this great shot of this kind of what would you call it? A little kind of balcony kind of seating area where a party presumably took place the night before, and there's like a table that's been knocked over, or maybe an umbrella that's upside down, something like that, and there's just all the remnants of a wild night, and it's kind of the night after and the end of summer, and time for the dream dies for another year, that kind of feel. And there's a song that plays over that speaks very much to that, of the sun coming down, and the summer's over once again. And I loved it. I really loved it. I just, these are two really damn good films. Au Saison, Au Chateau, Du Côte de la Côte. I would watch them again. And they're brisk, 30 minutes for this one, a little bit longer than the Chateau movie. One thing I really liked about this, superficially, was like some of the abandoned buildings in the area that she filmed, and one of them was this, I don't know if it was technically an abandoned cinema, or if it was just an abandoned kind of like mansion that had a home cinema. But you just see this great shot again of just this camera and these two old like faded posters from like the silent era, one with Rudolph Valentino and the other with Mae Murray, who I had never heard of. It kind of rung a bell, but I wasn't sure, and so I asked someone who is much more well-versed and knowledgeable of the silent era than me, and they knew exactly who that was. So that was kind of cool. Anyway, so that is it. I loved the film. I really did. I can certainly understand why this wouldn't be anyone's cup of tea. And I have to admit, as always, that being such a fan of Agnès, I enjoy even more knowing that she was behind it. But I feel her fingerprints all over this stuff. It's she has her own view on things, and it just comes through in everything that she makes. And these two documentaries are no different. But they show me, at least, and it even seems it showed her, because she said that she'd never been to the Loire Valley, where the chateaux were, so she had to kind of get a guidebook and kind of go to the area and scout locations and stuff. And same with the French Riviera, and she was kind of surprised at what life was like there. So it was an experience for her as well. But for me, it's it's just great to see these different places, and there's just like there's a wonder to it. Maybe not as much wonder in Du Côte de la Côte in terms of the kind of seaside areas, because I've certainly been to places like that, and I've been to the south of France, and so I can kind of recognize certain hallmarks of the areas and stuff. I haven't been to the French Riviera, but so it was kind of recognizable. But also, having been to kind of seaside towns in Norway, in the summer, I kind of got a feel for that as well. But at the same time, it's different. It is different, and there's just an enjoyment that I get out of just seeing places that I haven't been to before. And I love travel, and I love just all the different places in the world that we can go to. Although now it's kind of difficult, but it's hard not to think about that. But but I can't travel, as much as I would like to. I'd love to just travel all the time, even though I kind of hate it up to a point. That's the thing with me. I love traveling, but I also love being at home. I'm a real homebody, so films like this are perfect for me to just kind of live vicariously through Agnès's point of view and perspective and camera. So, yes, I loved Du Côte de la Côte. I think and it's tricky. I think that there are moments in Du Côte de la Côte that I maybe enjoyed more than Au Saison, Au Chateau, but I think overall I definitely preferred Au Saison, Au Chateau. There's just a little bit more in that film of Agnès kind of playing around with reality a little bit, but also just presents. I don't know. I think the chateaus were just so fascinating. But anyway, so I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Next time we'll be going to the third program, which I'm not sure what it's called. The book should tell me very quickly. Around Paris, yeah. So we're going to get to like one of her most acclaimed films in the next part, which I haven't seen yet, which is really exciting, and that's Cleo from 5 to 7. And there are, I think, 3 or 4 short films presented on that disc as well. So there's going to be a lot to get through in terms of single films and the like. In fact, let's just flick through to program number 3. Where are we on the book? Okay, so we have 4 short films. One from 58, one from 62, one from 84, one from 86. So quite a lot of ground covered. But Cleo from 5 to 7 is certainly one of her most acclaimed, if not maybe her most acclaimed film. In fact, next to say Vagabond, I would say, or The Gleaners and I, maybe is maybe one of her more famous films. But yeah, I'm loving this. I'm loving going through these films. I'm just waiting for the one that I'm not going to like, because I honestly haven't seen a film from her that I haven't liked yet, at least, in some way, shape, or form. I've loved most of them, but yeah, there hasn't been one that I thought, not so much. And I was honestly thinking and expecting that with these 2 short documentaries, I wasn't really going to get that much out of them, and that they were just like, nice fun extras that are presented, as part of her entire filmography. Just these oddities more than anything. But I think that they're just as valid as some of her other works. I think that they're great. I love them. I really do love these 2 films. So it's come to that time again where I've decided to do a little bit of a postscript kind of addition to the video here, and I'm kind of both enjoying doing these and not enjoying doing these. I don't like the fact that it's not part of the main video, but as I edit the things and I look at the images that I've pulled from the Blu-ray, I just think of new things to talk about, which aren't particularly notable. I think I said all I needed to say about the film as an overall review, but just a few things here and there. This one particular shot, you can't see it very well in this image, but it's kind of a camera shot that's panning backwards with this statue just behind the wall, and it's a beautiful piece of camera work, and there's many moments like that in the film where I think the camera work as well as the framing are just so, well, just pretty to look at, and just make for a much more visually engaging film than if you went entirely with static shots. Also, these images of just the people on the beaches from the stuff that's staged, quite clearly on the sand, and seeing just this guy with a bit of a belly and a gut hanging over his pants. And then she goes into like an extreme close-up on his crotch for some reason. Agnès just seems to be interested in the unusual and the points of reference that other people wouldn't use, I suppose, like the crotch of a guy with a little bit of a gut, hanging over his underwear. And like shots on the beach of like there's someone just lying with a dog there. It's just very strange and striking. And there are these moments that look like they are just caught on a beach, but there's a little bit of tweaking there where you can tell that, again, she is staging some of these things. And there are these beautiful moments that just look like great photographs, but we're seeing them in motion. Towards the end of the film, when we have the island, or at least she's talking about the island being a kind of paradise, we see this couple lying naked, and it's a very kind of stark image, but there's something really, again, striking about it. Images of gates, of like these stately estates, to use a really bad phrase of words there, and then also the gates looking out to the sea. And just, I don't know, I really just love the visual style of this film. This is one of my favorite shots of just this woman lying, I don't know why I said lying, I'll leave that in for double free. She's sitting there. It's almost as if she's lying there, and everyone else is walking around her, and she's this kind of statue almost. The way the sun kind of plays off of the hat and the red dress, and some of these close-ups, these like extreme close-ups of people's faces looking right down the camera. I don't know what other word I can use for striking. I'd have to get out my thesaurus, I guess. So yeah, just a few things I wanted to kind of throw in there because I thought that they were worth mentioning. When else am I ever going to talk about this film? I just think it is full of those moments that don't necessarily mean anything, but they're just nice to look at. It all goes back to that thing that I took from Agnès when I saw her live in London. I like that. Just little things that, hey, I like that. That's cool. Let's put it in the movie. And then I watch it, 50, 60 years later, and I think, wow, I like that, and there's a connection there. a thread of just liking the way something looks, and maybe the way that it makes you feel and evokes a kind of emotion. And even if it doesn't, just a pleasing image. And this is a film that is, if nothing, comprised of really pleasing images. And having her introductions made it even better. I actually watched both of her introductions to both films before and after again, because once I'd seen them, I could kind of get a feel for what she was talking about a little bit more on the second go around, and so that was really nice. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hier c'était la fête du soleil, c'était la fête, c'était l'été, l'été vermeil qui s'est fané. Le soleil de la fête, il est démaquillé, c'est triste et bête, la fin de la fête, la fin de l'été.